Celebrities appear to have it all: passion, talent, wealth, fame, and adoring fans. But often, this glittering life hides a darker reality. Mismanaged finances, scandals, and controversies can trigger their downfall. Join us, and let's explore stories of stars who rose to remarkable fame and wealth only to lose everything. Number 15. Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer. Now there's a name that echoes loudly in Hollywood. He's best known for his unforgettable roles in films like The Social Network and Call Me by Your Name. But there's much more to Armie than his acting resume. You see, Armie was born into wealth and influence. His great-grandfather was none other than Armie Hammer, a well-known oil tycoon and philanthropist. He even took a successful detour to Broadway in 2018, starring in Straight White Men. However, 2021 marked a grim chapter in Armie's life when he was engulfed in a swirl of scandals involving allegations of abuse, cannibalism fantasies, and drug addiction. An anonymous Instagram account exposed purported conversations between Armie and various women that contained violent and graphic desires, with mentions of assault, torture, and cannibalism. Several women accused Armie of emotional manipulation and assault, sending shockwaves across the industry. While Armie denied these allegations, he subsequently stepped back from future projects and was let go by his talent agency and publicist. Things further spiraled when Effie Angelova accused Armie of assault in a lawsuit. However, after a thorough investigation, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office and the LAPD cited insufficient evidence to press charges against Hammer in May 2023. These controversies spilled over into Armie's personal life as well. His marriage of 10 years to Elizabeth Chambers ended in 2020 due to rumors of infidelity. They share 2 children, Harper and Ford. Battling addiction, Armie checked into a Florida rehab facility in 2021, where he stayed for several months. After emerging from the facility, he seemed healthier and more at peace. As he attempts to overcome his addiction and rebuild his life, his journey is a sobering reminder of the heights and depths a person can experience. Number 14. Stephen Baldwin. Can you believe the youngest Baldwin brother, Stephen, is an accomplished actor, producer, director, and author? Or, well, he was. Picture this. You're born into a family, the Baldwins, teeming with talent. Alec, William, and Daniel Baldwin are already setting Hollywood ablaze. So, what's left for you? The youngest Baldwin, Stephen? Well, you forge your own path, and by the mid-90s, you're making waves too. Remember The Usual Suspects? The crime thriller that had everyone on the edge of their seats and clinched 2 Academy Awards? Yeah, our man Stephen was in there delivering a performance that still resonates today. But then, as the new millennium dawned, things started to go sideways. Stephen's career began to drift towards low-budget films that never made it big, and then came reality TV. Shows like Celebrity Mole, Celebrity Apprentice, and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Yeah, not the best career moves. Add in some controversial viewpoints on politics and social issues, and Stephen was steadily moving away from the spotlight. Things didn't fare much better off-screen. Financial trouble? Check. Legal issues? Yep. Stephen found himself wrestling with bankruptcy, tax evasion, and even foreclosure threats. Lawsuits from unhappy creditors and former business partners also came his way. He admitted to some poor decisions and misplaced trust when it came to his finances. Life had another curveball in store for Stephen, a struggle with drug addiction and alcoholism. But in this fight, he came out on top, crediting his recovery to his newfound Christian faith, which he embraced in 2001. Stephen didn't stop at acting. He turned author, too. Despite the roller coaster ride, there was one constant in his life: his family. Stephen's been married to Kenya Deodato, a Brazilian graphic designer, since 1990, and they've got 2 daughters, Alaya and Haley, the latter famously married to pop icon Justin Bieber. Number 13. Kanye West. Kanye West, also known by his moniker Yeah, is a figure who needs no introduction. Early in the 2000s, Kanye first made a name for himself as a producer for Rockefeller Records, where he worked with big names like Jay-Z, Alicia Keys, and Ludacris. But it was when he turned the spotlight on himself and ventured into a solo career as a rapper that he really began to shine. His debut album, The College Dropout, released in 2004, was both a critical and commercial success. It wasn't long before he founded his own label, Good Music. Kanye quickly ascended to become one of the most influential and acclaimed artists of his generation. His sound was fresh and bold. He wasn't afraid to experiment with different musical styles and genres. On top of his musical talent, Kanye also dipped his toes in the fashion world, launching his own brands, Yeezy and Donda. With 24 Grammy Awards and over 160 million records sold worldwide, it seemed like Kanye could do no wrong. But the Kanye we knew from the 2000s seemed to shift in the 2020s. His controversial political views, particularly his support of Donald Trump, started to draw backlash. Add to that his erratic behavior on social media and his failed presidential campaign in 2020, and his image began to get ruined. His personal life also suffered as he battled with mental health issues, including bipolar disorder, and dealt with marital problems with Kim Kardashian West. They ended up divorcing in 2022. A public fallout with Adidas over anti-Semitic comments cost Kanye his lucrative Yeezy sneaker deal. Gap, CAA, and Balenciaga also severed ties with him. His once impressive fortune plummeted from $1.5 billion to $400 million. Musically, it felt like Kanye was losing his golden touch. By the time Donda 2 hit the scene in 2023, fans and critics alike decried it for poor production, recycled lyrics, and a lack of originality. Number 12. Ellen DeGeneres. You've probably heard her name, seen her dance moves, or laughed at one of her jokes. Ellen DeGeneres, the charismatic American comedian and television host, has been in the public eye for over 4 decades. Back in the 80s, Ellen was just another stand-up comic trying to make it big. Fast forward to 86, and suddenly she's on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, and the spotlight was all hers. Come 1994, she even had her own sitcom, Ellen. She courageously came out as a lesbian on the show and the cover of Time magazine in '97. While some admired her bravery, others weren't as accepting, and her show was canned after the 5th season. However, Ellen wasn't someone to stay down. In 2003, she launched The Ellen DeGeneres Show, and it was an instant hit. Her engaging interviews, hilarious skits, and grand giveaways earned her a special place in our living rooms. She wasn't just limited to her talk show, though. She hosted major award shows, voiced Dory in Finding Nemo, and even bagged the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016. But in 2020, the Wheel of Fortune took a drastic turn. Employees from her show pointed fingers at her and senior producers, claiming a toxic work environment filled with harassment, racism, and even misconduct. A probe by Warner Media followed, and 3 top producers were shown the door. Ellen had to apologize on air, admitting she wasn't fully aware of the behind-the-scenes happenings, but took responsibility nonetheless. The controversy left her ratings and public image in shambles. In 2021, she dropped another bombshell. Ellen decided to wrap up her talk show after its 19th season. Though she denied the scandal influencing her decision, she did admit it took an emotional toll on her. Number 11. Marilyn Manson. Ever heard of a rock star that courts controversy like it's part of the gig? That's Marilyn Manson for you. Manson started out in '89 with a band called Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids. He mixed up the names of actress Marilyn Monroe and cult leader Charles Manson for his stage name. A pretty wild mashup of beauty and horror, right? The band, later just Marilyn Manson, signed with Nothing Records in '92. Their first big hit was the album Antichrist Superstar in '96. It was pretty out there, all about a nihilistic rock star who becomes a world leader and wipes out humanity. Not exactly easy listening, and it certainly riled up a bunch of Christian groups and politicians. Manson didn't just stick to music either. He acted in films, wrote a memoir, and even showcased his paintings. But things took a turn in the mid-thousands. His new albums got lukewarm reviews, and his personal life was in shambles. A divorce from Dita Von Teese and a breakup with Evan Rachel Wood hit him hard. Despite his best efforts to jumpstart his career with new albums, they never quite reached his early success. Just when things were picking up a bit in 2020 with his album We Are Chaos, a bomb dropped. In 2021, multiple women, including Evan Rachel Wood, accused Manson of disturbing acts of abuse. The allegations ranged from physical and emotional abuse to assault. Manson called these accusations horrible distortions of reality, but the damage was done. His record label, manager, and talent agency all cut ties with him, and he was dropped from several TV shows. On top of that, some of the accusers filed lawsuits against him. Manson's tale serves as a stark reminder that fame and success can rapidly spiral into chaos and destruction. Number 10. MC Hammer. Ever found yourself humming "You Can't Touch This" or "Too Legit to Quit"? That's the legendary MC Hammer at work. This guy was a sensation in the 80s and 90s, always rocking his iconic hammer pants and unforgettable dance moves. Hammer wasn't just about style, he had serious talent. In fact, he was the first rapper to get a diamond status album, with "Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em" selling over 10 million copies. At his peak, he was raking in around $30 million a year, living the dream with mansions, cars, jewelry, you name it. Beyond living large, he was also a savvy entrepreneur, investing in a record label, a cartoon show, even a racehorse. Generous, too, giving back to charity and supporting his loved ones. He even became a minister, hosting a Christian ministry program on TBN. But in the mid-90s, things started to go south. His popularity dwindled, critics accused him of selling out, and the music scene started shifting away from his pop-rap style. In a desperate bid to stay relevant, he reinvented himself as a gangsta rapper, but that didn't quite pan out. Adding to his woes, he was slapped with lawsuits for using music samples without permission. His financial situation took a massive hit, and by '96, he was staring down bankruptcy. Over $13 million in debt, he had to sell off his assets, lay off staff, and even cut ties with some friends and family. But Hammer wasn't one to stay down. He bounced back, kept creating music, collaborated with other artists like Psy and Tupac. He diversified into other ventures too, judging on Dance Fever, co-creating DanceJam.com, and even producing his own reality show Hammer Time. Despite his struggles, he kept his faith and continued his ministry work. Number 9. Michael Jackson. Let's dive into the life of Michael Jackson, an entertainer who dazzled the world like no other during the early and mid-'80s. He started off as a young talent in the Jackson 5, scoring 4 #1 hits in a row in 1970, but Michael was just getting started. In 1982, he brought us Thriller. That album was next level. It's still the best-selling album of all time with over 66 million copies sold. It was more than just his music that blew us away. He brought us iconic dance moves like the moonwalk and the robot in his music videos. His genius won him 13 Grammys and a double induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But things started to go south in the later part of his life. There were controversies, scandals, accusations of abuse. He was never convicted, but it sure did tarnish his image. And let's not forget the wild speculation about his changing appearance and health. He became a recluse, pouring millions into his Neverland Ranch, a place filled with exotic animals and amusement park rides. He racked up a debt of over $400 million because of his extravagant lifestyle and legal expenses. Lawsuits kept piling up, and his new albums and tours couldn't bring in enough money. His health also took a hit from his addiction to prescription drugs. In 2009, he was planning a big comeback with a series of concerts called This Is It. But, in a heartbreaking twist, he died that year from a drug overdose. His doctor was later found guilty of manslaughter. His death sent shockwaves around the world, triggering a global outpouring of grief and tributes. He's still remembered as one of the most celebrated artists ever. Number 8. Britney Spears. Now, let us tell you about Britney Spears. Remember her? The pop sensation from the late 90s and early thousands? She was crowned the Princess of Pop for a reason. She burst onto the scene in '99 with that catchy "Baby One More Time." And man, did it catch on like wildfire. It sold 10 million copies in the US alone. Britney didn't stop there. She kept dropping hits like "Oops," "I Did It Again," "Toxic," you name it. Even tried her hand at acting with Crossroads and judged on the US X Factor. With over 100 million records sold and a heap of awards, including a Grammy, she was living the dream. But here's the thing. Fame can be a cruel mistress. After her split with Kevin Federline and losing custody of their kids, Britney went through some real rough patches. Shaving her head, umbrella attacks on cars, yeah, those moments. The media couldn't get enough. In 2008, her life took a weird twist. A conservatorship was slapped on her, which basically meant her dad and a lawyer got to control her money, career, and personal life. It was supposed to be temporary, but it stuck around. What's remarkable is Britney didn't let that break her. She kept making music but battled for control over her own life. We mean, imagine needing permission for everyday stuff like seeing your kids or getting married. Britney even said she was forced into a tour and taking meds she didn't want. In 2021, she spilled it all in court about wanting to get married and have more kids, but the conservatorship stood in the way. Here's where the plot thickens. A documentary called Framing Britney Spears came out, and it shook people. The Free Britney movement took off, with fans and celebs backing her. Long story short, Britney's lawyer, a real-life hero named Matthew Rosengart, went all in to free her from the conservatorship. And guess what? In November 2021, a judge finally ended it. After 13 years, Britney got her life back. Her story's like a roller coaster, but it's a reminder that fame isn't always glitz and glam. Sometimes it's a battle for basic freedoms. Number 7. Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes is an acclaimed American actor who really made a name for himself during the 90s. Back then, you'd see him in blockbuster hits like New Jack City, and also bagged the Volpe Cup for Best Actor at the Venice Film Festival for his performance in One Night Stand. However, his career hit a road bump when he got entangled in some pretty serious legal issues. The IRS came knocking, accusing Snipes of failing to file tax returns and not paying taxes on a whopping $37 million in income earned between 1999 and 2004. On top of that, he was accused of filing fraudulent forms to recover taxes he had paid in 1996 and 97. Snipes, in his defense, tried a variety of strategies. He challenged the legitimacy of the IRS, claimed he was a non-resident alien, and even argued he wasn't obliged to pay income taxes. However, these defenses didn't hold water in court. In 2008, he was convicted of 3 misdemeanor counts of tax evasion, and the fallout was significant. He received a 3-year prison sentence, and on top of that, he was hit with a $5 million fine. Snipes began his sentence in 2010, losing everything he had. In spite of all the drama, Snipes turned his situation around and drew some important life lessons from his time in prison and was released in 2013. Post-prison, Snipes picked up right where he left off and jumped back into his acting career. He made appearances in movies such as The Expendables 3, Dolomite Is My Name, and Coming to America. On top of that, he also ventured into film production. He started a production company called Amen-Ra Films and a subsidiary, Black Dot Media, with the aim of developing projects for film and television. Number 6. Dion Warwick. Let's take a journey through the life of Dion Warwick, a name that resonates through the hallways of music history. Warwick is a legendary singer whose musical career spanned a whopping 5 decades. That's half a century. During that time, she sold over 100 million records and bagged 5 Grammy Awards. Her journey was even more remarkable because of the company she kept. She had the chance to collaborate with renowned artists like Burt Bacharach, Hal David, and Barry Manilow. Together, they created a slew of hit songs that still ring in our ears today. Think of classics like Walk On By, I Say a Little Prayer, Heartbreaker, and That's What Friends Are For. Moreover, she used her fame for a good cause, serving as a goodwill ambassador for the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization. Unfortunately, Warwick's story also includes a financial downfall. Starting around the 1980s and 90s, she found herself in a serious monetary crisis. Her manager at the time allegedly mishandled her finances, not paying her taxes as required. This led to a mounting debt to the IRS and the California Franchise Tax Board, which grew significantly over the years due to interest and penalties. Adding fuel to the fire, Warwick had a shopping habit that put a considerable dent in her earnings. Despite her best efforts to negotiate with the tax authorities, which even included paying more than the actual amount of the taxes, she couldn't shake off her debts. In 2013, she decided to file for bankruptcy protection, stating she had only $1,000 in cash and assets worth $25,000. Warwick characterized herself as an innocent victim of terrible mismanagement and saw bankruptcy as a chance to start anew. Now, it's time for today's subscriber pick. One of our subscribers has sent us this image, and it's honestly heartbreaking. This collage was sent to them by their friends, and they really can't put their finger on who the sizzling model is. Also, how did she lose everything like that? Even Google has failed them, not showing results like some dark mystery. But that's where you come in. Can you help us solve this mystery? Who is this model? And what bad decisions led to the second picture? The answers await. Number 5. Antoine Walker. Moving on to a story of talent, fame, fortune, and lessons learned. We're talking about Antoine Walker, a pro basketball star whose name once shone bright in the NBA constellation. His career spanned from 1996 to 2008, during which he played for some of the most prestigious teams in the league, including the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, and the Dallas Mavericks. He had 3 NBA All-Star titles under his belt, and even won an NBA championship with the Heat in 2006. Over his career, he earned a jaw-dropping $108 million, not to mention millions more from various endorsement deals. But Walker's tale takes an unfortunate twist. Despite his hefty earnings, he was known for his extravagant lifestyle. Luxury cars, sparkling jewelry, sprawling homes, you name it, he had a taste for the finer things in life. Add to this his generosity towards friends and family, and his funds began to dwindle. His lack of wise investments and foresight for life post-basketball didn't help matters. Things took a turn for the worse when he got caught up in gambling and risky real estate investments. When the Great Recession hit, these ventures went under, leaving him in significant debt. He found himself owing banks approximately $20 million and was even charged with felony bad check charges. By 2010, Walker was in such a financial crisis that he had no choice but to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Although this wiped out his unsecured debts, it also led to the loss of most of his assets. But Walker didn't let this setback keep him down. He turned his experiences into an opportunity to guide others. Today, he wears the hat of a financial literacy consultant for other athletes. He uses his own life as a lesson, advising them to live within their means, save and invest wisely, steer clear of gambling, and be discerning in their trust. Number 4. Mike Tyson. Think of a comet streaking across the sky, burning brilliantly and then fizzling out. That's a bit like the story of Mike Tyson, the iconic boxer who grabbed global attention in the late 80s. His early years were the stuff of legend. At the tender age of 20, he became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Tyson had a knack for knocking out opponents, unifying the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles, and even putting legends like Larry Holmes and Michael Spinks in their place. He was, without a doubt, one of the most feared power punchers in the ring. But life has a knack for throwing curveballs, and Tyson's journey was no different. His world turned upside down when James "Buster" Douglas stole his titles in a shocking upset in the 90s. But that was just the beginning. Tyson was convicted of assault in 1992 and ended up spending 3 years behind bars. After his release, he did manage to regain some of his titles, only to lose them again to Evander Holyfield. Remember the infamous ear-biting incident during their rematch? By 2002, Tyson's star was waning. He took a hit in the ring from Lennox Lewis, and by 2005, after suffering 2 more losses, he decided to hang up his gloves for good. But that's not the end of Tyson's tale. During his heyday, he earned a staggering $300 million, but his fondness for the high life, gambling, legal issues, and struggles with addiction soon saw his fortunes dwindle. Tyson hit rock bottom in 2003 when he had to declare bankruptcy, with millions of dollars owed to the IRS and other creditors. His personal life was a battlefield, too. He battled depression, addiction, not wanting to live, and had to bear the loss of his daughter Exodus in a heartbreaking accident in 2009. In recent years, he's been making efforts to put his past behind him and reinvent himself. He's made appearances in films, TV shows, and podcasts, sharing his journey with the world. And he's changed in other ways, too, embracing veganism, spirituality, and even cannabis. Number 3, Lindsay Lohan. Now we have Lindsay Lohan, whose life is like a Hollywood movie in itself. Picture a 3-year-old Lindsay, who's got more spunk than most adults, diving headfirst into the world of modeling and ads. As a kid, she was in over 60 commercials, including ones for Pizza Hut and Wendy's. Fast forward a few years and Lindsay hits it big time with Disney's The Parent Trap. She owned the teen movie scene with hits like Freaky Friday and the ever-iconic Mean Girls. And get this, she wasn't just an actress, she had pipes too. She dropped 2 albums, selling over 4 million copies. Now here's where the plot thickens. The mid-2000s roll around and Lindsay's star starts to fizzle. There's drama, like a lot of it. Arrests, rehab, lawsuits, you name it. This girl couldn't catch a break. Her acting career hit the brakes and her reputation took a nosedive. So Lindsay decides she's got to turn things around. She tries to claw her way back to the top with some movies, but critics did not let her. Meanwhile, her bank account's bleeding red and she's knee-deep in financial troubles. But wait, enter Oprah, the fairy godmother of comebacks. She teams up with Lindsay for a docuseries, and slowly but surely, Lindsay starts rebuilding her life. She's thinking outside the box now. She moves to Europe, opens up beach clubs in Greece, and even gets her own reality show on MTV. Now let's jump to 2022. Lindsay's got a new love in her life, a Dubai-based businessman named Bader Shamus, and she's like, I'm ready to slay Hollywood again. And guess what? Netflix says, we're here for it. She lands a multi-picture deal and gets back in the game with a romantic comedy, Falling for Christmas. Number 2, Fantasia. Fantasia Barrino's journey in the world of R&B music is quite the tale. She hit the big time in 2004, winning the 3rd season of American Idol. That win sent her debut single, I Believe, straight to the top of the Billboard Hot 100 chart, making her only the 2nd woman to pull that off. And she even snagged a Grammy in 2011. Oh, and did we mention she's a best-selling author? She wrote Life is Not a Fairy Tale, which later became a Lifetime movie. But it's not all been sunshine and roses for Fantasia. She had a tough start, getting pregnant at 16 and dropping out of high school after a terrible assault. Then there was a messy legal battle over child support and custody, lawsuits from a former manager and a creditor, and she even came close to losing her home in 2008. In 2010, things got murkier when she got mixed up with a married man. The wife dragged Fantasia to court, blaming her for the end of their marriage. The media frenzy and lawsuit stress pushed her to the brink, leading to an attempt of taking her life. Thankfully, she pulled through and eventually settled the case. In 2015, things started looking up. She found love with businessman Kendall Taylor, and they now have 2 kids. She also launched her own record label, Rock Soul Inc. But her financial troubles weren't over, and she was sued again for an unpaid loan. Health issues also forced her to cancel some concerts. Yet through it all, Fantasia has remained hopeful. She's learned from her mistakes and is super grateful for her fans' unwavering support. And she is making her comeback back in the 2023 film adaptation of The Color Purple. Number 1, Aaron Carter. Last on the list is a guy who had music in his blood, Aaron Carter. Now, this kid started his career when he was barely 9 years old. Remember the tracks like I Want Candy, Aaron's Party, Come Get It, and That's How I Beat Shaq? He also popped up in shows like Lizzie McGuire and Seventh Heaven. So, in 2017, Aaron gets really candid and comes out as bisexual. That was a pretty big deal, paving the way for other young artists to be open about their identities. Fast forward to 2021, and he's welcoming a baby boy named Prince into the world. But here's where things get real. Aaron was dealing with everything from substance abuse and mental health issues to serious money problems. His relationship with his family was also pretty rocky, with some intense allegations of abuse and harassment against his brother Nick. And his love life? It was just as complicated, with high-profile romances with stars like Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan that ended in some serious heartache. Aaron didn't shy away from controversy either. The guy got a face tattoo of Rihanna and openly supported Donald Trump for president. He even made the shocking claim that he had been assaulted by his late sister Leslie. Despite everything, Aaron was constantly trying to get his music career back on track. But he could never really match the success and popularity he had in his early years. Sadly, the story takes a tragic turn. On November 5th, 2022, Aaron was found lifeless in his bathtub at home. The news of his death at just 34 ruled an accidental drug overdose, left fans and the music industry in shock. To add a chilling twist, his last album, Blacklisted, was released just 2 days after he passed away. Which of these stories made you shed a tear? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.